The next question I was going to ask is, what do you love Chicago so much?
I do. I love Chicago because I don't, that's what I know. But I never wanted the song to be about Chicago, and it's not really to me. It's about everywhere. It's about again, it's about embracing so many cultures. And that was another thing that as I get to, I've been so fortunate to travel around the world, and that was something that I really noticed is that every place has its own life to it, everywhere in the world, and I really wanted to say something about that, even though it's very simple and whatever. I do love Chicago though. My family's been there for like 150 years, which in the States is pretty long.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of a, if you were to ask me, what, there's that question, oh, what are you? Like in the States, people always want to know, like, what's your ancestry or something like that. And it's like, my ancestors are from Germany and Ireland, but I'm Chicagoan. I mean, if you really, that's more impactful to me because, I've been to, whatever. We have ancestors from Salzburg in Austria. I've been there once. It's not like,
I think it's very hard to give anyone an actual, country identity now.
Yeah. Well,
it's just a big mix of.
And in the first place, I think a lot of these, that's another thing that I wanted to deal with without confusing it too much, is that you aren't your city, you aren't your culture. It's a part of you, but it's not what defines you. And so when I don't know. I wanted to play with all those things and dissect it, but in really, really simple ways. So, and in retrospect, maybe I was trying to be a little bit too simplistic with it because I still don't think a lot of people get it. I think a lot of people hear the song and are like, "Oh, you love Chicago," which
that's the obvious one, isn't it?
Yeah. Which is so maybe next time I should do something a little bit more.
And I don't mean Chicago.
Yeah. So
going back to the album, I was wondering the album name.
Yeah.
So Punk. Where does that come from?
So I never really felt very comfortable anywhere, certainly not musically, because I was a punk rocker. And I never really felt like, I don't know. I would talk to my punk rock friends and we would play, we played all the shows in the basements and everything. Like that's very much a part of me. But I always felt that punk rock was an ideal, was a belief system. It wasn't a haircut and a sound and all those things. I always thought those things were so superficial. The idea that, that punk is like, distorted guitar and, spiky hair and a leather jacket and stuff. Like, I was like, because to me, like, I think the most fruitful formative years for punk rock are right at the beginning when you have the CBGB scene, and you talk about punk in America specifically, just because that's one I know a lot more. You talk about like the Ramones as like, oh, that's punk rock, right? Totally. But who were the Ramones playing with? They were playing with Talking Heads and Blondie and Devo and Television and Richard Hell and the Voidoids, and none of those things sound the same. And all of them are very, very unique and very, very honest and very, very distinctive. And so to me, when I'm not thinking about it, when I'm not trying, soul music is the thing that appeals to me the most. And so I wanted to make R&B music with that same kind of mentality of what punk meant to me. Because again, like punk, means, that phrase means something else to other people. But I wanted to make an R&B record in the same way that, you know, that Blondie was making disco records. You know, like where they really tried something different and put their stamp on it. I wanted to, you know, I wanted to, as someone, as an old punk rocker, I wanted to make an R&B record.
Ready to do something different.
Yeah.
How long did it take the project to write the album and getting it out there and knowing exactly where you were gonna, you know, what songs you were gonna put together?
It took a while actually because I wasn't sure if I was gonna. It took a while to figure out what it was. It didn't take that long to record or you know, pick out the songs. It took a long time to. It took a while to pick out the songs. It took a while to figure out like what I wanted to say with the whole record, because I have really broad taste in music, and I started making the record and it was so scatterbrained. It was so all over the place where, you know, I had some kind of jazz stuff and some kind of indie stuff and some kind of blues stuff and some kind of, you know, punk stuff and some kind of whatever. And it was like, how do I get all of these influences into, these are all good songs, but it would be better if I could get them all onto one song. You know, if I could get them all, you know, every song had elements of this.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a, I guess the thought process took a little while, but actually recording it was like, that. It was easy.
Do you think that is the main difference now that you're on your own? The fact that there's no one there to stop you and tell you to get on with things.
Yeah, well, you know, it was something that I really wanted. I didn't want to produce it myself. I wanted to get another producer, but I couldn't find anybody that knew what I was talking about because again, there are these preconceived notions of R&B and these preconceived notions of punk rock and these preconceived notions of, I don't know, being a solo artist and, you know, whatever. A lot of people wanted me to do an acoustic record or do, you know, like whatever. There's all these things, and it was really hard trying to get someone in my corner. So I ended up producing it because I was the only producer in town that knew what I was talking about, I guess. But that's really dangerous, and I didn't want to be in charge of it myself because I think it puts a lot of pressure on yourself, and you also have to really, really exercise a lot of restraint. You have to really exercise a lot of restraint and try and be really objective if you can, you know, which is easier said than done.
Rock stars are never objective.
Yeah, it's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's really hard to, you know, one of the things that's weird for me, you know, I feel like musicians fall into one of two categories. Well, there are more than two categories, but in this specific instance, I feel like I've either encountered musicians who love everything they do or hate everything they do.
That's so true.
And I'm definitely the latter. Everything that comes out, I'm like, oh, this is stupid. I shouldn't. So the real challenge for me is to like know when to stop and know when to back off and be like, oh, this is good. This song is good enough. This is, you know, it'll never be up to your standards because, you know, there's no, you know, you hate everything you do. So
that's a good thing because that's why you'll always keep on going.
Keep
on writing.
Hopefully.
Hoping for that one moment where you'll be satisfied.
Yeah, it happens once in a while, but for the most part, you know, it's weird. Like,
did it happen on this album?
Yeah.
What tracks do you?
There's this song, Greed.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just something magical about it to me where I don't know, it just fell into place in this really great way. And then there's a song, Dance Miserable, that when I was recording, it just felt so right. It felt so good. And I don't know, it has this, it's weird because it has this kind of like pristine kind of, it feels very put together, but it was so improvised, you know, it wasn't this polished thing, but it just magically sounds that way, and there's something really warm exciting about that to me. So.
I think there's a lot of big hits where the artist actually says, I wish all my songs were that easy to write. Yeah.
Well, you know, this city was kind of easy to write, and I wish all songs were that easy to write. This city is funny to me because it's the single, it's the pop thing, all these other things, you know. But I happen to really like that song. It really means something to me, and it's really exciting to be promoting it because, you know, I've been in the position before where you have the single and you're like, well, I don't know about that song, but whatever, you know. It's really awesome to have the single and be like, that's one of my favorite songs, you know. So.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Cheers.